From Memphis, Tennessee, the National Civil Rights Museum presents the 27th Freedom Award.
The 26th Freedom Award honors 3 outstanding individuals. I stand here as a descendant from refugees from the Jim Crow South.
So the question at hand in 2017 is, where do we go from here? Tonight, we honor 3 individuals that remind us of the resilience of the human spirit and the importance of remaining vigilant.
I accept this award tonight on behalf of Mrs. Beulah May Donald.
Couldn't stop the sun from shining, couldn't keep a people down, hear them ask now, where do we go from here? Wherever in the hell we choose.
I regret so deeply that I can't be with you tonight to receive this prestigious award that you have so graciously bestowed upon me.
This is the city that 49 years ago took something from me and my siblings and my mother. And so tonight, I am overwhelmed that the National Civil Rights Museum, the location of where my father was taken from us, is giving something back to me.
We thank you, Memphis sanitation workers.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Chris Barnes.
What? 1960 who? 1960 what? 1960 who? 19. Hey, the cities are burning, y'all. That ain't right. 1960 what? 1960 who? 1960 what? 1960 who? 19. Hey, these cities are burning, y'all. That ain't right. There was a man, voice of a people, standing on the back of the Lorraine Motel. Shots rang out. Yes, it was a gun, was the only one to fall down, y'all. Yeah, that ain't right. Then as people scream, ain't no need for sunlight. Ain't no need for moonlight. Ain't no need for street lights. Cause it's burning real bright. Some folks say we gon' fight. This here thing just ain't right. 1960 what? 1960 who? 1960 what? 1960 who? 19. Hey, these cities are burning, y'all. Yeah, that ain't right. Oh yeah, oh they're burning, yeah.
Mr. Ed Mabry.
They say if it wasn't for bad luck, black folks wouldn't have any luck at all. All they left us with was the blues, y'all, in 1968, and now they say they want that too. It must be something about it then, huh? All this black on us, all this shadow and act, this earth and tone, this boom shakalaka, this hoochie coochie, this chakra, this gravel between my nails, this oil slick for a throat to lump of coal for a heart beating like a tired diamond. All this black cat under a ladder on Friday the 13th, this soot they got all over my soul. They stole my ankh and put this Adam apple in my mouth, killed our black leaders, and then left us this drunk Noah saying he gonna love that animal going 2 by 2, but they love these Negroes with a 4 by 4, said swing, batter, batter, swing. Must be all this satchel in my Satchmo, this Josephine and my Jimi Hendrix, Nina, singing slaves to safety, Santa Maria, pizza, all them fancy names, but I can't sleep without sirens singing me to sleep. Don't even flinch at the sound of gunshots anymore, like that's a compliment. It must be all this magnificence masquerading as man tan, all this cotton in my club, all this shoe fly and two-step in my shoes. I tried to hide it, y'all. What parts they didn't beat out of me. But just as soon as I think shoulder slump savvy, shuffle step spectacular, coon eyes lit, I slip up and that amazing fall out my mouth. Start speaking in Holy Ghost tongues, saying crazy things like, Oprah, Serena, Beyonce, Sandra, say her name, Solange, SZA, Ava DuVernay, Issa Rae, Michelle, OBA, Amazing Grace. How sweet the sound that saves some fool for getting his neck snapped by me. See, I once was Kanye, but now I'm Kanye. Was Jigga, but now I'm Jay-Z. See, I keep messing up in front of them, y'all forgetting my place. Must be all this black that refuses to be anything but beautiful. All this Sherelle and Patti LaBelle, all your hoes get to the encore in this Aretha Franklin all-clave. All this James Brown private plane screaming, I'm going to take you higher. See, I told Teddy and Curtis, stabbed at Mayfield. I told Teddy, don't pin too much grass. I warned Marvin that the world couldn't handle a black man that gay. As in happy, as in filled the joy the world didn't give, so the world couldn't take away. As in mercy, mercy me, I tried to play the role of trouble man, y'all, I swear I did. But see, my mama, she tattooed Malcolm on one fist and Martin on the other. Named her belt Mahalia and gospel me in the religion of butt-whooping revivals. Said I was born a dollar short and a day late. So squash tomatoes, baby. Ketchup. Must be all this I, my ancestors' wildest dreams in my eyes. All this Harambe in my hips. All this Abin Ali in my gait and this Coochie Chocolate in my kick step that won't let me play, kid. They say it must be bad luck to be born this black and still proud. I say, yeah, there I go again. But this bad black luck is certainly better than no luck at all. In 1960 what? 1960 who? 1960 what? 1960 who? 1960. Hey, these cities are burning. No, that ain't right. Hey, 1960 what? 1960 who? 1960 what? 1960 who? Hey, this bridge is burning, y'all. Hey, that ain't right. That ain't right. No. Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, Terry Lee Freeman, President of the National Civil Rights Museum.
Thank you. Thank you, Ed Mabry and Chris Barnes. What a great way to start the show. 1968. While we dedicated 2018 to commemorating the 50th anniversary of Dr. King's assassination, we recognize the enormity of the year 1968. CNN called it the year that changed America. Smithsonian Magazine called it the year that shattered America. I believe it may have been the year that revealed the two faces of America. It was one of the most turbulent years in modern times, a year when cultures clashed and student protest was commonplace. It was a year when peaceful nonviolence was questioned and challenged as being too slow an approach to solving urgent problems. It was a year of tragedy, marked by not one, but two assassinations, Dr. King and Robert F. Kennedy. And it was the year when pop culture highlighted the America we hoped would be, 1968. The Vietnam War, the persistence of a separate and unequal society, and the rise of feminism really helped define the year. In January, 5,000 women marched on Washington, led by 87-year-old Congresswoman Jeanette Rankin, in protest to the war. Sanitation workers here in Memphis illustrated to the world the economic injustice they endured on a daily basis. Meanwhile, the Kerner Commission, appointed by President Johnson, boldly stated that our nation was moving toward two societies, one black, one white, separate and unequal. 1968. At South Carolina State in Orangeburg, South Carolina, police opened fire on students protesting segregation at Orangeburg's only bowling alley. 3 were killed and 27 were injured. Within the same month, 15,000 Latino high school students in Los Angeles walked out of their class to demand their right to a better education. At Columbia University, students take over 5 buildings on campus and briefly hold a dean hostage, calling for the university to cut ties to military research. At the 1968 Democratic National Convention, already reeling from the assassination of potential Democratic presidential nominee Robert F. Kennedy, Hubert H. Humphrey is nominated, while violence breaks out between Chicago police and protesters of the Vietnam War. And gold and bronze medal winners Tommie Smith and John Carlos take advantage of their First Amendment right by lifting their fists at the Olympics in protest to the violence and poverty among African Americans. 1968 was also a year of firsts and beginnings. Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In debuted on NBC. Hair opened on Broadway and introduced mainstream generations to sex, drugs, rock and roll, and draft resistance. CBS debuted 60 Minutes, now the longest-running news magazine program, and NBC also introduced the first situation comedy, Julia, to star an African-American woman, Diane Carroll. Chrissy was introduced by Mattel as Barbie's friend, and African-American models graced the covers of Ladies' Home Journal and Glamour magazine for the very first time. In the world of music, the Beatles released their hit, Hey Jude, on their new Apple label, and the Queen of Soul, Aretha Franklin, released her album, Lady Soul, which included top hits Chain of Fools and A Natural Woman. Although discrimination persisted in both overt and covert ways, African Americans continue to push forward. Arthur Ashe becomes the first black man to win a Grand Slam tennis tournament by winning the US Open. Sadly, Private First Class James Anderson Jr. posthumously becomes the first black recipient of the Medal of Honor. And proudly, Shirley Chisholm becomes the first black woman elected to the US House of Representatives, 1968. It was a year of dichotomies and a year that had a significant impact on our 3 honorees. The Honorable Joe Biden, 47th Vice President of the United States, Reverend Jesse L. Jackson Sr., and J.R. Pitt Hyde. The events of that year helped mold them into the individuals we honor tonight: a public servant, a freedom fighter, and a philanthropist. Tonight, you will hear more of their stories, and we will pay our respects to the woman who taught us how to spell the word, R-E-S-P-E-C-T, the Queen of Soul, born right here in Memphis. 50 years later, we can see the similarities to 1968. Our brave young men and women of the military are still deployed in foreign lands. Young people protest the injustices they see occurring throughout the nation. Athletes continue to bring focus to the killing of unarmed black men and women. And for the first time in history, we have 3 African-American candidates running for governor in the states of Florida, Georgia, and Maryland. So tonight, we hope as you hear the stories of these 3 gentlemen that you are inspired to follow in their footsteps and work to make your community a more just place for everyone. But before I go, I want to share what we hope will inspire a movement of human decency and empathy. And we're thrilled to have the filmmaker, Mateo Servant, and the little star, Lala Maldonado, with us this evening. Please stand, Mateo and Lala, so the audience can see you. All right, everybody, we want you to open up and spark a connection.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back our host for the 27th Freedom Award, Michaela Angela Davis.
Wow. 1960, what about that opening number? Chris Barnes, Ed Mabry, and Gary going, I'm going anywhere you are, because this band is the truth. The Freedom Award House Band, let's give it up for them. And Terry, thank you so much. That was so inspiring. I know that I needed to feel that. Didn't you all feel good just seeing those images and hearing what happened? Because 1968 did shape a lot of things. Shaped my hair. But, you know, in all honesty and seriousness, I've been thinking about this place, about where we are, and that this is a place where we may have lost a king, but we found our soul. And Reverend Jackson today said that this is Calvary, that Memphis is the place where the American soul found itself. Our heart was broken, but something really important happened here. And last year, I felt reinvigorated. I felt like I had come back to the home of soul. And Lord knows, this year, we need to feel this. So I just really want to thank the city of Memphis for holding it, for holding our soul, for being America's moral epicenter. And we can give it up for that. And I love that PSA to remind us to stay connected and spark some conversation. So this evening, we've got 3 great men of service. You can give it up. I heard somebody else say amen back there. There's never too many amens. And speaking of Memphis, Pitt, thank you for supporting the soul of this city. You are a great philanthropist, and you know where to put your energy in education. This morning when you said, when you fight the good fight is when you're going to get the greatest resistance, and you are fighting the good fight, sir. Thank you. We appreciate you. We appreciate you. Reverend Jackson. Ooh, I'm verklempt already because this is early in the evening to feel this, but I was thinking about you particularly. You know, anyone who's been to the museum, you've all been there, yeah? It's so intimate, it's so real. It's so real what happened. But this time, when I was on that balcony, I thought about you. On that balcony, 50 years ago. Not as an icon, but as a young black man, and that was your friend. That was our king, but that was your comrade, that was your friend. This is personal. Thank you for always coming back here, and thank you for bringing us back. Where's my vice president? Where's my vice president? Yes! Yes! So we know there would not have been an Obama presidency if it weren't for Michelle. You know, we tell the truth here. But we are clear that that was an Obama-Biden ticket. We know that. And we know that we would not have had our first African-American president if it were not for you, sir. Thank you. We know that's true, yes? It even had a good ring to it. Obama, Biden, Obama, Biden. It just worked. So thank you. Thank you all for your service. And I'm going to do something. I've never done this before, but I'm going to ask the audience to indulge me. We're going to thank the sponsors. And even though corporations aren't people, but people work at corporations. So, and things like this can't happen without their support. So after I say the name of each sponsor, I want you all to clap and think about all the people working at these places. Okay? Will you do that with me tonight? Okay. International paper. All right, this one isn't going to be hard. Hyde Family Foundation. FedEx Corporation. Where's my girl from FedEx? Oh, there you are. So she asked me, was I going to wear something outrageous tonight? So I have on Dapper Dan, custom-made Gucci Dapper Dan for this event. I don't know if it's outrageous, but it is a black designer, so I know what I'm doing. Okay. Ford Motor Company. And the First Tennessee Foundation. So all of those foundations and corporations that are made up of people are presenting sponsors, and we're so grateful to you. And to all of you who got all dressed up to come here. I saw so many shoes that I could take, so many really good hairdos. Like Terry, do you see Terry's, yes, she was serving. We saw that. But this is going to be an amazing, inspiring evening. You think you know these men? Wait to see what happens. Thank you.
Please welcome Roland Webb, founder and CEO of Freedom Preparatory Academy Charter Schools.
Good evening. Freedom Award honoree J.R. Pitt Hyde is a shining example of how commitment to civic improvement and community engagement can transform a city. He is a philanthropist who does more than write a check. He rolls up his sleeves and gets to work, involving himself and his resources in knocking down barriers to opportunity and empowerment. Pitt Hyde has excelled in business, but also has made his mark in civil rights, committing 30 years ago to help transform a foreclosed motel into a civil rights museum, and has stayed involved ever since. His passion for the well-being of the children in Memphis led him on a journey of determination that every child would have a quality education. I know firsthand what that determination looks like because my schools, Freedom Prep Academy, were born and incubated in the offices of the Hyde Family Foundation. Please join me as we pay video tribute to Pitt Hyde, a man whose philanthropy and love for his city have led to a lifetime of opening doors and enriching lives.
J.R. Pitt Hyde is a triple threat, a family man, successful businessman, and philanthropist who has built an impressive legacy. A graduate of the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, Hyde took over the family business, Malone and Hyde Grocery Stores, which became the third largest company in its industry, and he became the youngest CEO on the New York Stock Exchange for a decade. In 1979, he founded AutoZone, which quickly grew to be an industry leader as well. His business life aside, Pitt has also been instrumental in encouraging economic growth in Memphis, founding the entrepreneur-focused Memphis Tomorrow and leading the effort to bring the Grizzlies NBA franchise to the city. Pitt led his grandfather's foundation before he and his wife Barbara co-founded their own. Together, they pioneered a new brand of philanthropy in Memphis that rewards innovation, accountability, and high-impact outcomes. The Hyde Family Foundation has worked tirelessly in Memphis to improve the lives of its citizens. The intersection of his life and the civil rights movement took place in 1968, the year etched forever in our minds and in American history. It was a turbulent, uncertain time for Memphis. Just a few months after the murder of Dr. King, Pitt met a legend of the civil rights movement in Memphis, Maxine Smith. He was 26, she was 37 and leading a picket of the neighborhood store, his store, and she asked to meet the store owners. It was a meeting that changed both of their lives. They not only resolved the immediate issue, they forged a friendship that lasted until her death. It was through the lens of the civil rights movement that Pitt determined that quality education was the civil rights issue of our time, and in support of it, he utilized a unique brand of high-engagement entrepreneurial philanthropy. It was not enough to write a check. It called for personal involvement, to build bridges and coalitions working for quality education for every child, no matter where they live or who their parents are. To succeed required Memphis aiming high. Pitt set out to be part of a new chapter for K-12 education that would establish his city as ground zero for innovations and breakthroughs for quality education. The work has been saluted by the Gates Foundation, the Obama administration, and national philanthropies, and it continues. At the heart of all he does as a philanthropist is empowerment. It is about empowering children to have better options for their future. It is about empowering citizens to be change agents for a better Memphis. The other values of his philanthropy, collaboration, optimism, courage, transparency, sensitivity, perseverance, and tenacity, can be seen in tangible improvements all over Memphis, from the 21st century's best urban park at Shelby Farms to the Green Line, from the cultural arts to leadership development, from cultivating grassroots leaders to animating the riverfront, from African American cultural riches to numerous educational initiatives. Most of all, it includes the National Civil Rights Museum, a highlight of his 50-year involvement in human and civil rights in Memphis. After the Lorraine Motel was purchased at foreclosure, he agreed to support its transformation into a civil rights museum, and since its opening in 1991, he's been personally serving on the board of directors. During his tenure, the museum built its original museum in 1991 and reimagined and expanded it in 2014. Equally important, it expanded its advocacy and became a voice for the voiceless. Along the way, Pitt has been a stalwart champion for higher expectations, for bolder goals, and for a city that inspires the rest of the nation in its commitment to human and civil rights 50 years after hate silenced its drum major. Pitt Hyde's steadfast and unwavering focus on his hometown has been a philanthropic current that flows through the life of Memphis and mobilizes the city for the work that lies ahead. Dr. King said, "Life's most urgent question is, what are you doing for others?" For 50 years, the life of Pitt Hyde has answered that question unequivocally. Pitt and his wife Barbara have 5 children: Margaret, Beau, Alexander, Susanna, and Claire. I'm Wendy Kopp, founder of Teach for America, and someone who has seen firsthand the transformational impact Pitt and Barbara have made in the lives of Memphis's children, on the strength of Memphis's community, and through their example, on our nation at large. We're proud to present the Freedom Award to Pitt Hyde, cultural philanthropist and champion of educational opportunity.
Ladies and gentlemen, Pitt Hyde.
Thank you, Roland, for that great introduction and for your deep impact on our city. I am a lifelong Memphian, and the Freedom Awards remind me every year what is so special about my hometown. It is the destination to speak the truth, the redemptive power of equal rights that flows from the Civil Rights Museum, and the willingness of ordinary people to become extraordinary in their pursuit of the American dream for each and every one of us. I am fortunate to have been involved with the museum since the days when it was only an idea. I am grateful for the opportunity to serve this great institution because I have become friends and colleagues with men and women who transformed a place of tragedy into a place of reconciliation, where Dr. King's words are proven every day that unnamed truth and unconditional love have the final word in reality. There's no award that means more to me than this one, because I'm honored and humbled to be included among my heroes like Nelson Mandela and the Dalai Lama. Even more, I'm honored to join my cherished friends, Maxine Smith and Ben Hooks, who have also received this award. I am also honored to accept it from a museum that is a unifying beacon of goodwill and inspiration to the city, nation, and the world. In describing the Civil Rights Museum as only Ben Hooks could, he said it is a sacred place consecrated by the blood of a martyr to civil rights. The mission has never been simply words on a sheet of paper. Rather, the mission is real and alive. It belongs to every American. The theme for tonight's program is simply a year, 1968. And it is hard to think of a time that had more impact on our city and our country. It is also the year my involvement with the civil rights movement began. One of our supermarkets was being picketed, and the leader of the pickets demanded to meet with the CEO. I agreed to the meeting with the leader. It was Maxine Smith. Some of you can remember how she was portrayed negatively and worse in the news media at the time as a friend, firebrand, and I approached the meeting with trepidation and concern. To my surprise, when it came time for this meeting, in walked a charming, impressive person, and within minutes, we had worked out any differences and became friends for the rest of our lives. Over the years, we came together many times to work on projects to improve the city that we both so dearly loved. Eventually, we would come together to help make the Civil Rights Museum a reality and to serve on its board together, along with our dear friend, Ben Hooks. We shared a passion for education and a belief that every child, regardless of where they live, the color of their skin, or the income of their parents, deserved a quality education. It came to define Maxine's service as a longtime member of the school board, and it became a top priority for Barbara and me at the Hyde Foundation. I was taught in my family that one of the great benefits of being successful in business is to have the opportunity to give back to the community in a meaningful way. Through the lens of the civil rights movement, I can state with conviction that even today, 54 years after Brown versus the Board of Education, access to quality education for every child remains the civil rights issue of our time. And when I say every child, I mean every child. Poor circumstance in life or an accident of birth should never assign any child to a poor education, when it is the key that opens the door to opportunity and economic independence. This is the unwavering belief for Barbara and me in our work at the foundation. It is both our responsibility and our moral obligation as individuals and as a city to reaffirm our commitment to the principle that our liberal democracy cannot flourish as long as a large number of our historically underserved students face barriers to a quality education. It is because our city joined together that Memphis was recognized by national foundations and the Obama administration as a laboratory for education built on the principle that every child can show dramatic improvement and respond to higher expectations when given the opportunity of a quality education. For us, the other side of the same coin is personal empowerment, the ability of individuals to solve their own problems, control their own destinies, and become citizens for a renewed Memphis. Together, we are making progress, as it's shown by the fact that Tennessee is one of the fastest improving states in the country for student outcomes. Yeah. This success would not be possible if it were not for Memphis, but we have a long way to go, and our journey is far from over. As I often say in our foundation work, if it were easy, someone else would have already done it. This is not easy, but anytime we look into the eyes of a student in a Memphis classroom, we know that it's the right issue at the right time for our city and its future. We must persevere. In closing, I accept this Freedom Award on behalf of all Memphians who care deeply enough about this great city to get personally involved, particularly our school leaders, teachers, parents, and students who prove to us every day that our dreams can be realized when we join hands to fight for the future of every child. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome David J. Bronzek, President and Chief Operating Officer, FedEx Corporation.
Good evening. Good evening. What a great night tonight is. Only a few people ever have made the same impact on America that our next honoree has done for this country. Reciting the achievements would take me literally all night long. And I'm sure we would all like to be here all night long to hear them. However, we've decided to make a video at the end of my presentation that sums it up quite nicely. Our honoree marched with Dr. King, took on a leadership role for him in Chicago, and was in the parking lot of the Lorraine Motel right here in our city, April 4th, 50 years ago, when Dr. King was taken from us. He has worked for equal rights and improved economic opportunities for African Americans and disadvantaged people of all races. He has traveled literally the world on his various missions from Kenya to Kosovo. His personal diplomacy across the decades has led to the release of American prisoners abroad and sought to promote peace in numerous troubled countries around the world. That's pretty amazing. We really can't appreciate where we are today or how much further we still need to go unless we fully understand the history made before. And he helped us all make that history. So ladies and gentlemen, please join me as we pay a very special tribute to the Reverend Jesse Louis Jackson, Sr. Reverend Jesse Louis Jackson has been called the conscience of the nation and the great unifier. He is one of the foremost civil rights, religious, and political figures of our time. A testament to the depth of his work is evidenced by the highest civilian honors in two nations, the Presidential Medal of Freedom awarded in 2000 by President Bill Clinton and the National Order of the Companions of the O.R. Tambo awarded by the South African government in 2013. Born on October 8, 1941, in Greenville, South Carolina, Reverend Jackson was a standout athlete. After turning down the Chicago White Sox, he enrolled in the University of Illinois on a football scholarship. He later transferred to the North Carolina A&T State University and graduated in 1964. He was awarded the Rockefeller Foundation Scholarship to pursue his theological studies at the University of Chicago's Theological Seminary, but deferred completion one semester shy of his graduation to begin working for Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. as organizer for the Southern Christian Leadership Conference's Operation Breadbasket. A part of Dr. King's inner circle, Reverend Jackson was at the Lorraine Motel on April 4, 1968, when Dr. King was assassinated. Refusing to be disheartened by his mentor's death, Jackson became one of the most prominent civil and human rights activists. In 1971, he founded Operation PUSH, People United to Serve Humanity, in Chicago to focus on economic empowerment and expanding educational, business, and employment opportunities for the disadvantaged and the people of color. In 1984, Reverend Jackson founded the National Rainbow Coalition, based in Washington, D.C., devoted to political empowerment, education, and changing public policy. In 1996, he merged the two organizations to form the Rainbow PUSH Coalition. Reverend Jackson's two presidential campaigns broke new ground in United States politics. His 1984 campaign registered over 1 million new voters, won 3.5 million votes, and helped the Democrat Party regain control of the Senate in 1986. His 1988 campaign registered over 2 million new voters, won 7 million votes, and helped boost hundreds of elected officials into office. In 1991, he was elected Senator of Washington, D.C., advocating for statehood for the nation's capital and advancing the Rainbow Agenda at the national and international levels. Reverend Jackson has acted many times as an international diplomat in sensitive situations. In 1984, he secured the release of captured Navy Lieutenant Robert Goodman from Syria and the release of 48 Cuban and Cuban-American prisoners in Cuba. He was the first American to bring home citizens from the United Kingdom, France, and other countries held as human shields by Saddam Hussein in Kuwait and Iraq in 1990. In 1999, he negotiated the release of the United States soldiers held hostage in Kosovo. On November 2, 1985, Reverend Jackson delivered a major address at the 120,000-strong demonstration in London's Trafalgar Square to protest apartheid in South Africa and called on the South African government to free Nelson Mandela. He appealed to the British Prime Minister, Margaret Thatcher, to drop Britain's support for apartheid. In 2003, people in cities all over the world marched to prevent the invasion of Iraq by the United States. Reverend Jackson delivered the keynote address in London's Hyde Park at the world's largest anti-war rally with over 1 million people in attendance. A hallmark of Reverend Jackson's work has been his commitment to youth. His push for excellence, educational programs, was featured on 60 Minutes, and for more than 40 years, he has visited thousands of American high schools colleges, universities, and correctional facilities, encouraging excellence, inspiring hope, and challenging young people to study diligently and stay drug-free. From Asia to America, Jesse Jackson has worked tirelessly to mediate labor disputes between labor and companies worldwide. He married his college sweetheart, Jacqueline Lavinia Brown, in 1962. They had 5 children: Santita, Jesse Jr., Jonathan, Yusef, and Jacqueline. Just 1 year ago, Reverend Jackson rode along on a plane that FedEx donated to bring 150,000 pounds of hurricane relief supplies to Puerto Rico. He stayed there to help distribute the supplies. He has been a friend to FedEx and a personal friend of mine, someone for whom I feel a great deal of admiration. I'm Dave Bronzek. It is a personal and deep honor for me to present the Freedom Award to the Reverend Jesse Louis Jackson.
Ladies and gentlemen, Reverend Jesse Jackson.
To be in Memphis on this occasion, the special joy and the special pain. My relationship to this city is not at all academic, it's real, burned in my soul. Next year, 2019, will have been 400 years since our journey and sojourn began in this country. Memphis was a stop along the way. I want to express my thanks to the president of FedEx, the sponsor tonight, in a very special way for our vice president. Don't take Joe Biden for granted. People like Joe don't come in bunches like grapes. Give it up for Joe Biden. They're kind of rare like pearls. I want to express my thanks to my wife couldn't make it tonight. My eldest daughter, Santita, is here. Stand up, Santita, please. Challenged by Board Bishop Henry Williamson. Bishop, please stand with your pink cap on. We're here tonight not because Dr. King died, because he lived. I was with him on his last birthday, January 15th, 1968. We didn't know it would be his last birthday. He convened whites from Appalachia. I'll be speaking at Appalachia State tomorrow. Blacks from Deep South, Mississippi, Alabama, North and South Carolina. Native Americans, Jewish allies from New York. A Poor People's Campaign, preparing to go to Washington, if necessary to go to jail, to shift our focus from killing in Vietnam to healing at home. But as the time went on, the focus on ending poverty, we found it difficult to get our arms around poverty. It can be such an elusive term. Within 2 workers were killed here in Memphis. Garbage workers were killed here. Dr. King's response was, that's the issue. Working poor people. Most poor people are not black, the female, they're young, but whether white, black, or brown, hunger hurts. Most poor folks work every day, but don't earn enough money to make a living. They're more month than money. So if you're working and can't afford health care, you're working your way into poverty. You're working and can't afford to send your child to college, you're working your way into poverty. He talked about the dignity of the garbage man. Without his work, without her work, the germs would be on the streets. The doctors could not do surgery. Teachers could not teach. People could not breathe without the work of the loaded garbage worker. He looked toward the day when they could come home on a Saturday night and take their bath, put on their clothes and go to church on Sunday and then go to see their child graduate from school. I got to go to Memphis, he said. We got a call from Reverend Lawson and Reverend Billy Kiles. His focus was on poverty, not on dying, it was on poverty. Poverty, racial polarization, and peace over the expensive, unhonorable wars. Tonight, the focus remains on poverty, racial polarization, and peace over unwinnable wars. You focus on early voting. What would he be doing tonight? What would he be doing tonight? He would be focused on early voting, which began in Tennessee today. He'd be celebrating the light that came to Shelby County in the last election. If in fact, if this room were pitch dark, and there were no lights, one candle would challenge all the darkness, the power of light. A lot of darkness coming out of Washington these days, a lot of darkness, attacking the women, then mimicking them, darkness, attacking journalists, saying they're a threat to democracy, sending them up to be hurt and killed, darkness. Babies locked up in cages on borders as a strategy to deter immigration. Darkness, attacking our neighbors, the north and Canada, the south and Mexico, Germany and Britain. Darkness, attacking NATO, giving a comfort zone to Putin. Darkness, and yet, when it's darkest, you see the stars more clearly. It's dark, but there's O'Rourke in Texas. There's a light coming out of Texas. It's dark, but where Emmett Till was killed, there's now Mike Esper running for senator in Mississippi. It's dark, but where there was Rosewood in Florida, the stolen election in 2000, there's now Gillum running for senator, for governor in Florida. It's dark in Georgia, where Maddox held up an axe handle to threaten our freedoms. And now Stacey Abrams is going to be the next governor of Georgia. Dark in Maryland, where Frederick Douglass escaped to, but Ben Jealous is running for governor and leading the polls. Give it up for Ben. Our strength has never been the White House, it's always been the lighthouse. Memphis has never gotten its fair deal in this analysis of this season. Memphis is the capital of the Delta. This is where Sam Cooke left Clarksville, Mississippi, and came to Memphis. B.B. King left Sunflower County and came to Memphis. This is where the Appalachian coal miners and the cotton pickers of the Delta find common ground. Something special about Memphis. And while we as Christians appreciate the role of Bethlehem, our redemption comes from Calvary. The resurrection does not take place far from the crucifixion. Atlanta is not the King's Bethlehem, but Memphis is his Calvary. Bad news is the Calvary. The good news is the resurrection takes place not far from the crucifixion. There's something magic about if workers in the Appalachian Hills, coal and iron workers, those who picked the cotton in the Delta, and those that came down that river on slaves, if workers in this region would find common, if the resurrection power lifts up Appalachia and Arkansas and Tennessee and Mississippi, the whole South changes, the whole world changes. There's something magic about this place. Something when FedEx is here. You must know that FedEx sent more planes to Puerto Rico than our government did. Well, thank you, Mr. David. And Joe, I close on this note. When Jesus was crucified, they went back to the tomb, but he was not there. They didn't have a lot of celebration around the tomb. He was not there. We go to the museum, but he is not there. He is searching for people to register and vote and regain their sense of consciousness and confidence. He is somewhere making crooked ways straight and exalting valleys. He's somewhere trying to free the unjust jailed. He knows that there are those who are free should be jailed, and there are those in jail who should be free. You'll be somewhere tonight trying to exalt us to another level of consciousness and love one another as he has loved us. To reconcile Appalachia and the Mississippi Delta is our great moral mission. Lastly, we learn to survive apart. But we have a greater lesson, learning to live together. The Civil Rights Movement won in the South. You couldn't have Toyota in Mississippi if we had not won. You couldn't have the Grizzlies in Memphis, nor the Titans in Tennessee if we had not won. You couldn't have Georgia playing Alabama and Atlanta if we had not won the battle. The day Dr. King gave that speech from Memphis to Texas to Mississippi to Florida, we couldn't use a single public toilet. We couldn't rent a room at Holiday Inn with money. We couldn't buy ice cream at Howard Johnson's. Black and brown soldiers sat behind Nazis on the American military base in 1962. But tonight, we have won those battles. And so I say to you tonight, don't give up and don't go weary of well-doing. There is still yet a great kingdom to go open. Every time I think about the balcony in Memphis and Lorraine, the balcony in Lorraine, the balcony at the White House 40 years later. Dr. King crucified on the balcony here, and Barack and Biden resurrected on the balcony. If you look at Potomac in Washington, D.C. We become so used to black president, we expect another one. And so don't give up on the faith. I've been blessed to be a long distance runner. I went to jail July 1960 trying to use a public library in Greenville, South Carolina. And I've seen a lot in my life and time, having gone to jail 58 years ago. And every star is a joy to me because your stars give you your stars, give you your stars. I thank God for this journey. The doctor said to me a few days ago I had the Parkinson's. It is a crippling, challenging disease, and yet with prayer and faith and medicine and work, there's nothing one cannot overcome. If Roosevelt could bring us out of depression in a wheelchair, I can lead handily on. I'm 77, but Moses started preaching at 80. And in this life and times, I've seen an awful lot in my life and times. I saw Mandela at Robbins Island convicted wrongly and go to jail for 27 years, marched behind the casket of Medgar Evers, marched behind the casket of Dr. King, saw the Great Wall of China. In South Africa, the day Mandela was set free, watched Barack Obama installed and inaugurated he and Joe Biden lead our country from the depths of a depression to higher heights. I've seen a lot in my life and time, but my spirit leads me to feeling good about tonight because in all I've seen, all the places I've been, I have never seen the righteous forsaken. Now this seed beg for bread. God bless you.
Welcome Barbara Hyde, Chair and Chief Executive Officer, Hyde Family Foundation.
Good evening. What do you call a man who embodies all of the following? Love of family, commitment to the highest principles, and a lifelong dedication to public service? You call him the Honorable Joe Biden. Our honoree tonight has a distinguished track record of leadership, both in the Senate and as our 47th Vice President, a track record that has left an indelible mark on U.S. politics and public life. He began as one of the youngest U.S. senators in history, fighting first for criminal justice reform, which led to his support of hate crimes legislation and affirmative action, as well as significant efforts to expand and extend voting rights. As Vice President, he focused on human rights internationally, as well as civil rights and economic equity in America. To create a more equitable society, he wrote, it's about freeing the soul of America from the constraints of bigotry, hate, and fear, and opening people's hearts and minds to what binds us together. Tonight, we pay tribute to the Honorable Joe Biden.
Joe Biden has been many things to many people. Councilman, senator, vice president. For me, he has always been my beloved father. Joseph Robinette Biden Jr. was born in Scranton, Pennsylvania, the first of 4 siblings. When Scranton fell in hard times, the Biden family moved from Pennsylvania to Claymont, Delaware. He graduated from the University of Delaware and then went on to Syracuse Law School. In his final months of law school, one of his only political heroes, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., was gunned down. And not long after, his other political hero, Robert F. Kennedy, met the same fate. Just as the civil rights movement awakened in him a need to engage in public life as a high schooler, participating in marches at the segregated movie theater downtown, the loss of these giants stirred in him a higher calling. He quit his job at a prestigious law firm and joined the Public Defender's Office. Not long after, he won a seat on the Newcastle County Council in an upset. Then, at age 29, he was elected to the United States Senate, the 6th youngest senator in U.S. history. But weeks before being sworn in, he experienced a grief so profound that he wasn't sure if he could get up and keep going. That's when he filled his broken heart with the strength his mother gave him. Out of something terrible, something good comes if you look hard enough. So began a tradition that would continue throughout his career. A daily round trip by train from Wilmington to Washington, getting home in time to tuck his children in at night. As a senator from Delaware for 36 years, Joe Biden established himself as a leader in facing some of our nation's most important domestic and international challenges. As chairman or ranking member of the Senate Judiciary Committee for 17 years, then Senator Biden was widely recognized for his work on criminal justice issues, including the landmark Violence Against Women Act in 1994. As chairman or ranking member of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee for 12 years, then Senator Biden played a pivotal role in shaping U.S. foreign policy. He has been at the forefront of issues and legislation related to terrorism, weapons of mass destruction, post-Cold War Europe, the Middle East, and Southwest Asia. And on a frigid January day in 2009, he was sworn in as the Vice President of the United States, serving alongside our 44th President, Barack Obama. Joe Biden continued his leadership on important issues facing the nation during his 8 years as Vice President, traveling over 1.2 million miles to more than 50 countries. He convened sessions of the President's cabinet, led interagency efforts, and worked with Congress in his fight to raise the living standards of middle-class Americans, reduce gun violence, and address violence against women. In the final year of the administration, he led the Cancer Moonshot, an international effort to end cancer as we know it, an effort inspired after another crushing loss in his life, when his namesake and my big brother, Beau, died from the disease. Since leaving the White House in January 2017, Vice President Biden has continued his legacy of expanding opportunity for all, both in the United States and abroad, with the creation of the Biden Foundation, the Penn Biden Center of Diplomacy and Global Engagement at the University of Pennsylvania, the Biden Cancer Initiative, and the Biden Institute at the University of Delaware. Through these nonprofit organizations, my mom and dad are developing programs designed to advance smart policies, convene experts and world leaders on the issues that they care most about, and impact the national debate about how America can continue to lead in the 21st century. The man you are honoring tonight with this prestigious, historic, and remarkable award is my father, a man who raised his children to respect all people with dignity and kindness, who taught his children that they were no better than anyone, but to remember that they were good enough, who taught his children to investigate, to learn the people's history of the United States, and to know our past in order to change our future, who taught his children by his example, by the way we watched him treat all men with dignity and respect. The same respect for the janitor was given to the CEO, who taught his children that silence is complicity, abuse of power the greatest evil, and that standing up for what you believe in moments when it's not convenient, is the true test of one's character. He is our hero. I wish I was with you tonight to receive this award, but I am with you always. I am home fighting against structural violence and institutional racism, just as you taught me. Congratulations, Dad. You are the wind beneath our wings. You so deserve this honor, and I love you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Honorable Joe Biden.
My name's Joe Biden. I'm Joe Biden's husband and Ashley and Hunter's dad. Barbara, thank you. I hadn't seen that. Because of the jobs I've had since I've been a kid, I've received a lot of honors, many of which I did not deserve, including this one. But this is the greatest honor I've ever received. And I don't want to get emotional in front of Jesse, so I gotta. Barbara, thank you very much. Hyde, you've done an awful lot for this city. You're a good man. And my good friend, and he is my good friend, Jesse Jackson, who stood here, right here in Memphis, as he said. That brings a lot of pain and a lot of joy at the same time. Jesse and I campaigned all over Iowa one year, and we spent a lot of time in the stage. We became good friends. I remember one time I was in a place called Storm Lake. It's up in the northern part of Iowa, fighting for the nomination. We're standing before one of the thousands of events you do in Iowa. I got called to get up and make a speech. Jesse got called to go up and make a speech. He reached over and took my speech and delivered it. I got up literally afterwards, as Jesse remembers, and I delivered his speech verbatim. I knew it. Because we've never had any real differences. I honestly wouldn't be here without the education I received from the civil rights leaders in my state, all of whom Jesse knows. Jesse knows my state well, the state of Delaware, Reverend Moyer and all the guys that brung me to the dance. Lewis L. Reddy, the first African-American member of the United States, of the state of Delaware's legal society. A guy named Mousy Smith, who ended up being head of the, he's head of the NAACP now, but I represented him when he was a kid as a public defender, and he was the president of Longshoremen. Theophilus Nix and Jim Gilliam and Reverend Maurice Moyer, who marched alongside Dr. King. I'm a practicing Catholic, always have been, but I received my public education as the only white employee in the largest inner city swimming pool in the summer in the middle of the projects. And not a joke, not a joke. And in the pews of Reverend Moyer's church. And that's not hyperbole. It took a long time. I thought I knew. I'd always been moved by the civil rights movement because I moved from Scranton, Pennsylvania, less than 1% African American, to Delaware, which is the eighth largest black population in America as a percent of population, a city that's over 50% African American. But until I worked in the East Side as the only white employee, I didn't realize, until I met guys I played ball against all the time, Jess, and Jamie Rolls, a whole lot of great athletes. Spencer Henry, who beat Henry Carr in indoor on the 220, which is nobody's done. But I didn't realize that they lived in the middle of a white society and didn't know anybody white. I didn't realize when Jamie Rolls asked if I had a jerry can, on those big, great 5-gallon, 10-gallon cans for gas. I said, no, I don't have one. Jamie, what the hell you need that for? He said, going to see my grandmom in North Carolina. You know, we can't stop, Joe. We can't stop for gas. I learned a lot. I learned a lot. The two things that helped me most in my career, I used to stutter very, very badly and overcame it and realized what it's like to have an impediment. And working on the East Side and realizing that men who went on to do great things, all those guys I work with, the impediments that they dealt with. They helped me prepare for public life and understand the stakes, at all the stakes that are involved for all our communities. I owe a personal debt to these leaders and the legacy that lives in this extraordinary museum I just went through for the second time. It's it's largely the lives outside that museum too, and every American, on every American street, in every American community that was changed. I'm here to tell you that once again, we need your energy. Once again, we need your leadership. Once again, we need a renewed commitment to civil rights and civil justice. Because much of what you fought for and I played a small part in fighting for, and much of what you've accomplished is under siege now. Like no time since I've been involved in public life. I got involved because my state was segregated. But we need to renew this struggle now. We need to renew the fight. Because when it comes to freedom, equality, racial justice, hope often travels on the same track as hate. We saw that long trail of hate last year in Charlottesville, Virginia. I ask this in all sincerity. Did you ever think we'd see that again, Jess, in America? I didn't. We watched as Klansmen, white supremacists, supporters like David Dukes and the neo-Nazis, skulking out of the dark rooms and digital hideaways and fields, carrying torches, chanting the same exact anti-Semitic bile that was chanted in the streets of Nuremberg, Munich, and throughout Germany. These are the same lost souls who've long stained our history, who call refugees animals, push for policies of ripping infants from their mothers' arms at our borders, set up camps in the middle of the desert to house more than 1,000 young people taken from their parents, and use the oldest trick in the book that charlatans use. Any problem you have, America, anything you got left behind on, is because of that immigrant, because of that African American. He or she is the source of all your troubles. It's being used today in Europe and other parts of the world as well by scoundrels. Forces we thought we had buried, fights we thought we had won. They're lashing back. Once again, testing our humanity, our decency, with the same old tactics. They represent one of the oldest and most insidious forces in America. Are we really surprised they returned as I think about it? I suspect I shouldn't have been. Just as we were in Montgomery, Selma, Memphis, and so many other times and places, we're once again living through literally a battle for the soul of this nation. That's literally what's at stake. Not Democrat, Republican, a battle for the soul of America. And that's why, although Barack and I said we were going to give this new administration an opportunity to stand up and have a chance like W gave us a chance, after Charlottesville, I could not remain silent any longer. And I wrote an article for Atlantic Magazine entitled "In the Battle for the Soul of a Nation." And that's where we are. The difference today is that we have an American president who's publicly proclaimed the moral equivalence between those marching out of the fields and those who confronted them. Good people in both groups. Good people. David Duke, the alt-right, the president who has emboldened racists with a message of comfort and support. And our children are listening. No. Our children are listening. And our silence is complicity. This is the moment. This is the moment to declare what he won't. That there's no place in America for hate groups. There's no place. That we choose hope over hatred. We choose inclusion over fear. But it would be a mistake to assume that the only threats to our dignity today are those who chant out slurs and carry torches. There's a much broader attack underway, an attack on the moral fabric of America. Multiple efforts, multiple affronts to our community and our common dignity. Ramped up attacks on civil rights and civil liberties. These same rights that the movement, the civil rights movement, fought so hard to establish are basic American rights. I'm talking about the right to vote, voter ID laws, and other schemes to take away that franchise. These attempts, at their base, are nothing other than a naked attack on the dignity of all Americans. A court system that sanctions and seems ambivalent about equality and the balance of power between people and corporations, about the Voting Rights Act itself. I'm talking about the assault on working class people and middle class people, and the need to reestablish, this time, a more inclusive middle class. You know, my dad used to have a saying. We moved from, if you listen to Barack, you'd think I climbed out of a coal mine in Scranton, Pennsylvania with a lunch bucket. My dad was a white-collar, well-read man, a high school-educated man, but when coal died in Scranton in the 50s, there was no work, so my dad moved to Delaware. He made the longest walk any parent has to ever make, and many of you had to make it, up a short flight of stairs to a child's bedroom to say, honey, I'm sorry, you can't go back. You can't go back to Cooper School. You can't stay in the Little League team. Daddy doesn't have a job. Mommy doesn't have a job. We're going to have to move. My dad made that walk at my grandpa's house where he had to leave us for a year. But he used to say when we moved to Delaware, and all my siblings heard it, and this is not hyperbole, every time someone in a family or extended family would lose a job, he'd say, Joey, remember, a job is about a lot more than a paycheck. It's about your dignity. It's about respect. It's about your place in the community. And then he'd end by saying it's about being able to look your child in the eye and say, honey, it's going to be okay. He believed, as I do, that every single one of us deserves to be treated with dignity, given the opportunity to pursue the possibilities that most Americans enjoy and that America's about. This is who we are as Americans. This is America. You know, the columnist David Brooks said, society can be organized in three ways: religion, tribes, or ideals. America is unique among all countries. It's not nativism I'm talking about. It's unique among all countries. America is organized around an idea. It's the one experiment in all of human history. You can't define an American for me based on race or religion or ethnicity. You can't do it. You can define it only by the ideals we all say we subscribe to. We hold these truths self-evident. All men are created equal, endowed by their... We don't always live up to it, but we've never given up on it as a government. It's central to the promise of the civil rights movement. So let's not forget who we are. Dr. King was when he was assassinated, he was here in Memphis, supporting sanitation workers who were striking for a decent wage, better working conditions. They had trouble coming home. They said, I'm a man. They had trouble coming home and looking their children in the eye and say, everything's going to be okay. Folks, they were stripped of their dignity. But I know that we can reestablish once again what that columnist David Brooks calls the invisible moral fabric that holds up a society that's now being shredded by so many of our leaders. I'll conclude by saying I've been around a long time. I've held a lot of offices. Been on the national stage since I've been 28 years old. I come from a very modest background. I'm always referred to as the young idealist, or now, every time you read about me in the White House, I was a White House optimist, like I was the new guy. I've been there longer than all of them, but I was optimistic and still am, because I know the history of the journey of America, and I'm not naive. When I came home after graduating from Syracuse Law School in 1968, I had a great job, as my daughter referenced, one of the oldest law firms in Delaware. I got admitted to the bar in January of '69. My city had been burned to the ground, big parts of it. Only city since the Civil War, occupied by the military for 10 months with drawn bayonets. Jesse knows this because he knows all the people in my city. Dr. King was assassinated. As my daughter points out, my only other political hero. The day before I graduated, Bobby Kennedy was gunned down. Can you imagine that happening today, where we'd be? If the putative nominee of a party was shot dead the day before? It was in January. I left this prestigious law firm. And I used to go down to the train station in Wilmington, Delaware, along the Amtrak line, because they used to bring the people they arrested down there as a public defender to represent these folks. And I wondered then, can we ever make it right? Can things ever get better? Because as you saw from the original film, '68 was a climactic year, and '69 didn't get a lot better. Remember Kent State, Jesse? Bucolic campus, all white kids. Not just black kids, all white kids. 4 shot dead in broad daylight by the National Guard. 9 seriously wounded. And so I wonder, could it ever change? But 40 years later, to the month, I found myself in January of 2009 standing on that platform, overlooking East Lake, and you've been there, Jess, in the south side of Wilmington, where the ashes were still fresh when I was a public defender, looking over the same part of the city which had been burned to the ground. Standing with my son, Beau Biden, who's now passed away, who was the Attorney General of the state of Delaware, the most popular politician in the state, including Barack and me, and that's not a joke. The year he won, we won, it said Biden - Beau, most popular politician in Delaware. And it made me proud. My son, Hunter, the smartest kid I know, who's a grown man who was head of the Save the World program, the Food for Peace in the American section. My daughter, who runs a criminal justice reform group. And I'm standing with him. All of a sudden it hit me, Jess. Here I was waiting for a train to come from Philadelphia on the 17th of January, carrying a black man who was about to pick me up. And we were jointly going to take a 124-mile ride to Washington, D.C. to be sworn in as President and Vice President of the United States of America. It hit me like a thunderbolt. So don't tell me we have to accept where we are. Don't tell me things won't change. Don't tell me that we can't restore hope in this country. Don't tell me that anything is beyond our capability. This is America. We've done it before, and it's time to do it again. God bless you all, and may God protect our troops. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for this great honor.
ambitious, brilliant, bad woman once said, "We all require and want respect. Man or woman, black or white, it's our basic human right." She said this too. Music does a lot of things for a lot of people. It's transporting for sure. It can take you right back, years back, to the very moment where certain things happened in your life. It's uplifting, it's encouraging, it's strengthening. And here's one more. I sing to the realist, people who accept it like it is. I express problems. There are tears when it's sad and smiles when it's happy. It seems simple to me. But for some people, I guess feeling takes courage. That, y'all, was Aretha Franklin. She's had many hits, but Respect was one of her biggest. It was released in 1967, and it was originally written and performed by Otis Redding, but when Aretha got it, you know when black women get something, we make it an anthem. And it became the anthem for civil rights and feminists everywhere. And we thank Aretha Franklin for raising our consciousness through music, getting us told and telling us what to do at the same time. That's Aretha.
Ladies and gentlemen, Pamela Alexander, Director of Community Development, Ford Motor Company.
Good evening, everyone. I want you to close your eyes for a moment and think about your favorite Aretha Franklin song. I'm hearing "Say a Little Prayer" in my head right now. I know you have one. We all do. Some of you are already humming it. Well, before it's over, you'll be doing more than that. You'll be standing on your feet, singing along, dancing, because that's what Aretha's music does to you. Tonight, we pay tribute to Aretha Franklin, a woman we've loved for as long as we can remember, and who sadly we lost this year. She made her way to the Lorraine Motel a few times, before, during, after recording sessions, or just to hang out, as did many artists then. Her rich legacy of music, the movement in her music, the love in her music, and the message in her music lives on. Oh, I forgot, open your eyes now, if you still had them closed. Some of you are still daydreaming. Call me when you get it together, but it better be with R-E-S-P-E-C-T. So please join me for the tribute to the Queen of Soul, Aretha Franklin.
I was around 8 or 9. My dad asked me to sing that day. Had he have not been a minister, he could very well have been a great singer. I really didn't want to sing, but he heard the possibilities and he continued to encourage me to sing. And thank God he did.
Oh, He's the kind of guy that would say, "Get away, let's go somewhere where I don't care." He's the kind of guy that will give you everything and trust your heart, share all your love till death do you part. I wanna be what he wants when he wants it and wherever he needs it. And when he's lonesome and feeling downhearted, I'll be there to please him. Loving him a little bit more each day. He turns me right on when I hear him say, "Hey baby, let's get away, let's go somewhere. Baby, can we? Where I don't care. Hey baby, let's get away, let's go somewhere. Baby, can we? Where I don't care." I got a call the other day. It was my sister Carolyn. She said, "Aretha, come by when you can. I got something I want to tell you." Oh, ooh. Gotta find me an angel, yeah, to fly away with me. Gotta find me an angel, ooh, and set me free. My heart's without a home. I don't wanna be alone. Gotta find me an angel, yes I do, in my life, in my life, in my life.
Ladies and gentlemen, would you welcome Karen Brown?
Oh, baby. Oh, baby. Love was always supposed to be something wonderful to me. To watch it grow inside yourself, to feel your heart inside yourself. Sometimes it hurts to love you so bad when you know you're giving it your best. Sometimes it hurts to even laugh. You feel 1,000 miles from happiness. Sometimes the pain is just too much, and it hurts like hell. That's the way it feels. Hey! You're a no-good heartbreaker. You're a liar and you're a cheat. And I don't know why I let you do these things to me. My friends keep telling me that you ain't no good. But what they don't know is that I'd leave you if I could. I guess I'm uptight the day I met you, life was so unkind, but you're the key to my peace of mind. 'Cause you make me feel, you make me feel, you make me feel like a natural woman. Oh, baby, what you done to me. Babe, you make me feel so good inside. And I just wanna be close to you. You make me feel so alive. 'Cause you make me feel, you make me feel, you make me feel like a natural woman. You make me feel, you make me feel, you make me feel like a natural woman. Oh, baby, I love you, baby. I need you, baby. I can't live my life without you. You're my everything. You're the song that I sing. I love you. I need you. I want you. You make me feel. You make me feel like a natural, natural woman. You make me feel like a natural woman. Though you don't call anymore, I sit and wait in vain. I guess I'll rap on your door, tap on your window pane. I wanna tell you, baby, the changes I've been going through. Listen to you, till you come back to me. That's what I'm gonna do. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the stage, Chris Barnes.
Why did you have to decide? You come and set me free. I guess I'll swallow my pride. Beg you to please, baby, please hear me. I'm gonna get by myself just to prove my love is true. For you, baby, till you come back to me. That's what I'm gonna do, baby. Yeah, yeah. Till you come back to me. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna sit on my stool and think about you, baby. Come back to me. That's what I'm gonna. Till you come back to me. That's what I'm baby. Till you come back to me. That's what I'm gonna do. You better think about what you're trying to do to me. Yes, think that you better go let yourself be free. Let's go back, let's go where
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Aretha's family, her son, Kelth Franklin, first. We also have Jordan Franklin and Victory Franklin. Thank you.
Good evening to everyone. First, I'd like to say thank you for everyone turning out to a wonderful evening. Thank you. First, I would like to thank the president of the Civil Rights Museum, Ms. Terry Freeman. Please give it up for her. I'd also like to thank Ms. Faith Morris. Please give it up for her as well. Ms. Pamela Anderson. And all of the performers tonight, please give them a wonderful round of applause. Also, all of the people of Memphis, please give yourselves a round of applause. And in conclusion, I'd like to say congratulations to all the honorees tonight. Thank you.
Good evening. So I just want to first say thank you for having my family and I here tonight, and I want to say thank you for the award, for the tribute. It was beautiful and moving, and probably one of the best that I've seen, so thank you for that. So these last few months have been very hard, obviously, but it's crazy because I've grown so much in these last couple months, and I see myself becoming more and more like my grandmother every day, and that's a beautiful thing for me. So just want to say thank you for all the love, for all the support. We see it, we appreciate it, and it really means the world to us, so thank you.
How's everybody doing real quick? First and foremost, let's give a round of applause for that tribute. That was really beautiful. Over the last few months, you know, I keep getting asked what's one thing that I want my grandmother to be remembered by. And it kind of just made me think and realize that, you know, a lot of people know Aretha Franklin, the singer, and Aretha Franklin, the fierce businesswoman. But not a lot of people know her heart and how big her love was. And, you know, she really cared. She really, really, really cared about people and about humanity. And I think that's definitely important. Her attitude was almost like that's how you're supposed to be, and that's what we're supposed to do. And more specifically, that's what a queen is supposed to do. And she definitely lived that title to the fullest. So long live the queen. Thank y'all.
Now that's how you honor a queen. Oh my God, I was taking off my shoes. Where are you? I almost threw 3 shoes at you. And whoa. Wow, thank you all. I know I'm supposed to say things, but I'm like a mess back there. Were you all up on your feet out here? That was incredible. That was incredible. Outfit changes and everything. Wow. Kelf, Victory, Jordan, we're friends now. Thank you so much. I rode with them to the museum I just got in the van with them. I was talking, where you from? We from the D. Oh, you cute. What's going on? And I'm like, where are you going? We're going to, and they let me know who they were. And this is a testimony to what you were saying about your grandmother. I saw your heart first. You all are smart. You're about it. You're wonderful. You're woke. And that's why I liked you. But then, you know, and Kelf, that's a testimony to you as a father. There you are. Your children are beautiful. So, the honorees, they're behind me. Where's Pitt? Where's Pitt? Pitt is hiding. Hi, Pitt. Reverend Jackson just gave me that joke. Pitt hide. Reverend Jackson, the Honorable Joe Biden. Such amazing men, amazing work, amazing talent, amazing city. Gary, I think you did it. You established Memphis as the home of soul. We talked about it. This is where American soul is. So you all can mark it. Today was the day that we renamed Memphis the home of soul.
Al Billings from Stax Records. Al Billings from Stax Records.
Let me give him the mic. Say that again. You had something to say?
Al Billings from Stax Records. Give it up for Al Bell.
Oh, thank you, on the set. So, thank you all for coming tonight. You know what to do tomorrow. You know what to do the day after that. You're gonna vote, right? You're gonna take lots of folks with you. And I hope to see you all next year. And have a good night. Be good to each other. Thank you. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us for the 27th Freedom Award of the National Civil Rights Museum. Open up, spark a conversation, and have a safe trip home.